Hey, everybody. Welcome to Charts and Coffee. I clearly need some more. Coffee. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Great to see everyone. All right, so you're taking a look right now at what I think is the best of the three indices, and you see the movement lower. And I think one of the best ways, we're dealing with a gap this morning, gang, so I thought I'd jump right into it. One of the best ways to look at a gap is not with the daily time frame, because what you see is this big candle. There's not a lot you can do with that. There's not a lot of feel there, right? You want something a little bit more nuanced. I have found that when we're getting a gap, the best way to sort of understand it and deal with it is just switch on over to a 5-minute chart or a 2-minute chart. Those are my preferred intraday time frames. It could be a 10-minute chart. It doesn't matter. And just sort of look at when it began to move lower and what it's doing since 7 a.m. And what's pretty good is since 7 a.m., things have been slowing down. The bulk of the sell-off came during the Asian session, during the UK, really between the UK and the European session, 2 and 3 a.m. We got a little bit more of a sell-off right in front of the Asian close at 4 a.m. And then it's found a range, right? So you can kind of see as the US market becomes a dominant market force, influence the next new burst of volume, things are settling down. It doesn't mean we're going to rally. Gaps do not always close the same day that they happen, but they do tend to be faded. A lot of traders look to buy into the weakness, right? For a quick little scalp, for a quick little move higher. So with that being said, this is how there's that pig in the head that's always either panicking or just telling you the most unempowering negative things possible. We all have that little committee, that pig in the head. So this is the way I quiet that, by just kind of looking at what's really happened and how it's behaving right now versus that giant down candle, right? So that's where we are at the moment. And, try that, see if it helps lower the blood pressure sometimes on days like this when we open in a gap down. All right. So, of course, as always, this show is about your questions. We had an epic session yesterday. Thank you all for for the views, for showing up at 9 a.m. We went right up until 10:05 yesterday. Thank you for the likes. I appreciate y'all smashing that like button yesterday. I think we hit an all-time high on that one. So I don't know, maybe we can break that record today, but I do appreciate it. Such a fantastic way to start the day, I know, for me. And so I thank you all. First question, Peter, how to use volume profile for a trade entry? So I don't use volume profile alone. Look at it this way, and this is a great way to decode volume. Whether it's an anchored volume weighted average price, whether it's volume profile, whether it's a value area high, low, point of control, whether it's something like a volume ledge, like these little areas, see these right here? These areas where the price-based volume is sort of jutting out, creating a ledge. Whether it be any of those things, my V score, right? They're just support and resistance. So what would you do with support and resistance, Peter, right? You'd step back and ask yourself, what is the underlying context of this market? Am I trending? Am I chopping? Am I in a narrow sideways range? What's the directional bias? What is the path of least resistance, right? So that's where we just use those levels and just view them as another kind of support and resistance. Almost everything on our charts in some form or fashion indicates that there's support or resistance. Everything is. So there's nothing magical I do with volume profiles, just another way of finding support and resistance. And as far as settings go, what is the I have on this 100 row size. The value area is 70, which these are pretty default. The 70 is pretty much your range for a value area high low, and I have a row size of 100. So after that, I just change some different colors, but I make the row size pretty narrow, so I get a much more granular view. So that's why mine looks different. Hope that helps. All right. Next up is when price is above the point of control, do I sell because it's supposed to revert? No, that's an easy no. It's just support and resistance, Peter. I think that should kind of click now, right? All right, cool. Next up, editor HKT, how are you? Good morning. Can we take a look at Microsoft, of course, which is part of XLK? Absolutely. It seems like Apple is the only one holding up in that sector. As far as heavily weighted stocks, I think there are a couple more further down the weighting list. When you think of boats and tide, of course, that's my analogy for understanding what the high concentration weighted environment is really like now. Not all the boats are of the same size, as you know. So if you go down to, beyond Apple and Microsoft, which are kind of the ships, if you will, they're big boats in this tide of the XLK. If you go down the list, I think there's a handful of lower weighted stocks that are doing all right as well. But as far as high concentration weighting, yes, Apple is definitely the only one defying gravity, if you will. And we're also just inside that window now. What is this? This is earnings. This is really our 642 window. And last week, because we're going into earnings season, Trish shared on the Countdown Trader how we look at time, the time horizon, the ever shrinking time horizon to earnings. That's that was in the Countdown Trader newsletter. So completely free. If you haven't checked it out, do check it out. Now, if you take a look at Microsoft, it's up today when most of the market is down. But I will say, I know a lot of us are going to look, hey, this is news, what's going on with Microsoft. I will tell you, it's kind of interesting that here's your previous low. Look at that Darvis right there. Now, the way we use Darvis is we just carry it forward. It's automated support and resistance. It's the best, most detailed and process-driven way to do this, right? So I just look back at this line, stretch it forward, right? And there it is. So very interesting that we've had a lot of tests here. Now, I'm not saying that coincides with the news, but it's also very interesting that we're still in a sideways market, right? We're arguably at this point, this is support. This could arguably be oversold. And what are we going to ask? Am I going to ask the price action if we're overbought or oversold? No, the price action gives me the support. The indicator then gives me another look. Remember, price first, right? Price first. And then the indicator gives me, yeah, we're in that 20 area here, right? We're in that 20 area. So if you've got the more aggressive 30 reading, which is also probably a secondary common default. What do I mean by that? If you open up a slow stochastic on any platform, it's usually going to, I'd say 90% of the time, default to an 80-20. That's the most common. The second, and it's a distant second, most common is a 70-30. So we're right down in that 20, which I prefer to watch. That's your 20 line right there. Yeah, this is telling us that we're in that oversold area, and we're trying. Notice here that switch from red to green. We're trying once again to find support at that Darvis level. Start with the price, oftentimes the Darvis, then move down to that slow stow, right? And that slow stow does what? Well, because we're slowing everything down, it's going to be a little bit more discerning, right, about when that oversold support level is kicking in. So I hope that helps. That's what's happening in Microsoft. And then XLK should be doing something pretty darn similar. There it is. Now, we're at the 20 level. We're not quite getting the signal here. Now, remember, this is more conservative. If you change this to a 30, I don't think it makes any difference. However, keep this in mind. We already got the signal right here. See that? We already got the signal from red to green right there with this move. So this is still part of a previous oversold level. And you bet I'm going to go right back to the Darvis. Thank you for the zone. Gang, if you're not using Darvis, all right, if you're not using the Darvis, head on over to Countdown Trader. We have the original Darvis 2.0 that we have made free since day one of releasing this indicator. Go grab that, get these automated support resistance levels on your chart, and then consult the indicator, then consult the subchart, then ask whatever your favorite secret squiggle is, hey, is this jiving with what I'm seeing in price? Step one, price. Step two, indicator, always, okay? All right, so that is that. And yeah, I think if XLK and Microsoft bounce, well, you know Apple's already got swagger, right? And that's still overall an uptrend, even though the uptrend is kind of getting a little bit more neutral here. Notice we have not yet even printed a red grab candle. We're still very much bullish with a little bit of neutral. How do I know it's bullish to neutral? Well, green grab candles went blue. Green JT multi went yellow. Super simple, right? Respect the trend that was, and you should be well on your way. Great session yesterday. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. You guys get the credit. We had some great questions yesterday. So I really enjoyed that. We need to do that more often. So anyways, next question after a sip of coffee. Okay. Okay, here we go. I got into crude oil. Is that what? I'm going to assume that's we're talking CL as in Colgate. So I got into CL on Friday morning for a swing, and it moved to a point where I don't want to add to it. I was wondering how quickly you add to a position as you scale. Number one, Friday entry, beautiful. My gosh, beautiful. Megazord, this is a classic buy the dip. Do we buy every move lower? No, it's got to be a measured move. How do we measure a dip? Well, two things. Is it overall bullish? Green grab candles and green JT multi? Yes. Do we move down into, and the wave is the sweet spot. Do we move down into the wave? Yes. And if you got in on Friday, beautiful. Do I want to add as it moves in my favor? No, I do not. There's a zone that I will scale into. Everything is about scaling. Everything is about how much capital is in your account. How much of that do you want to risk? Not how much of it necessarily do you want to spend. We determine budget and how much I will buy of an option based on account size and risk. We work, it's kind of backwards, but it's really the best way to do it. Everything should be predicated on how much am I going to lose if I'm wrong? I know it's so much more fun. It's so much sexier to talk about how much could we make. That's not the game we play, is it? We manage risk. If you check for those of you that may follow me on Instagram, I saw this on Twitter and I took a snapshot of it. Such a great, am I not logged into my own Insta? Okay, let me log in here real quick. Such a great, and it's on my Twitter too. It's on my Twitter feed as well. And here we go. Not now. Come on, just let me get to the darn image, Instagram. There we go. I love this. Not accounting, but risk management, decision making. You know, I loved this. I loved this. I thought it was so cool. And trading is about risk management. I don't get out of bed leaping to go, yeah, I have to manage risk today. But that's how we position size. That's how we understand how much we could or should spend on a trade. So no, I will not add to it as it sinks into the zone. Top line of the wave, middle line of the wave, maybe a volume ledge, bottom line of the wave, maybe the 55 propulsion. I'll have predetermined levels that I'll spend a certain amount of my budget buying the options at. That is a scalable mindset. I hope that helps you. Abbott, yeah, Jose, we're going to be dealing with some gaps today, and they're not always fun. And so what we always remember, and looking at where we are in Abbott, it's not that big a deal in terms of where we sit. Let's see. On Abbott, Hang on, let me go take a look at my wingman here. But on Abbott, all right, where is it? Hang on, I'm trying to find my wingman. But on Abbott, remember, every single trigger has its own stop loss. So I could scale out of an aggro scale in, still have a moderate or a conservative. That's very common. And that's by design. That's absolutely by design. Now, is Abbott oversold yet? Well, let's go back and like I said, let's do the same process. Repetition is the key. Darvis, that's a double Darvis here and back in here, right? What else do we have? I have another Darvis in here, right? Right in there. So we're in that spot in here. If not, there's a pretty big drop to this volume ledge and even the 200. So we could be down in this area if this area doesn't hold. So if we're looking for this to hold, what I'd like to see is the V score is pretty interesting. When we dip just below a +1 standard deviation of the volume weighted average price, we tend to find some supports. There's a volume derived support, right? We are at the 20, but I don't have the signal yet to green. But we are at the 20, which tells us, hey, we're at the lower end of the range. This is oversold. I'm just not getting the signal of the red to green. That's all. That's all. So, and if you want to look again at that crossing, that hook higher, that signal on the slow stochastic, 21K, 3D, okay, 2080 level. Same thing I've been sharing forever. So hope that helps. And that might be the last one to confirm because V-score is already there. Darvis is already there. We're in a choppy market with a bullish bias. Green turned to yellow. That's neutral, but respect the trend that was. Probability, the path of least resistance is still up. All right. Can you take a look at JHG? Sure. 200. This is probably a pretty easy one. Neutral market. The previous trend was down, so be careful. We do have a 1, 2, 3 here. Oh, really nice 1, 2, 3 on this one, Elliot. 1, 2. There's your breakout right there. We are pulling back, which is no big deal, but the trend reversal has confirmed in a neutral market. That's excellent. So this is buyable, and the closer you are to the 200 propulsion, which is sitting at about, looks to be, where is that sitting? About 40 and a quarter, 40 and a half, the better, the better. All right. And my pleasure, Elliot. Really, truly my pleasure, gang. Otherwise, I'd just be here talking to my cat. So I appreciate the community, the Caffeinate and Dominate crew. All right. With inflation and the dollar volatility, what's my position on ZB? Trader Mo, I still want to be short the bonds, long yields. Yeah, no doubt. Short bonds, long yield. We're double red, and we have been confirmed since Jan 10. There's no buys here for me. No buys. So I want to be short bonds, whether it be ZB, whether it be ZN. Short bond futures is the equivalent of long yields. All right. When day trading, what time frame do I tend to use? My day trading layout work is a 2-minute, a 5-minute, and a daily. I used a 5-minute for decision making. I used a daily for sentiment and some key levels. And the 2-minute is really to dissect what's happening within the 5 for more, or really to confirm signals. I don't make my decisions on the 2. It's really a way to dissect that 5, which is the main time frame. Ronaldo says it was awesome. People smash that like button. I appreciate that, Ronaldo. And while you're smashing that like button, again, if you're catching this on replay, feel free to leave a question or a comment. We're always checking those. If the show ends and I did not get to your question, just copy and paste it and leave it as a comment below, because I go back after the sessions of the day. I'll take a look at this tonight, and if you have a question I did not get to, please feel free to leave it in the comments. I appreciate that. Okay, what do I think the most liquid ETF option choice to play? Corn, CORN, JMO, CORN. Hey, Erica, absolutely, my friend. Don't fade Fridays. You got that right. And that's an old saying. That's not even a Ragheeism. That's an old saying. Don't fade Fridays. You got it. All right. I would like to get my thoughts on O, X, Y, and XLE. Generally speaking, we're bullish energy. The structure is there. OXY, I'm not as bullish as XLE. I think this tide looks better than an individual boat. But remember, Oxy is weighted in a number of ETF sectors. So maybe get specific to that and do a search within those boats of that tide. And then SPY, I'm still looking at oversold. And we have to do the ES because of the gap here and the pre-market action. But I'm still looking at oversold levels, my friends. I've got a yellow neutral market. Green preceded it. That means the path of least resistance is still likely up. I'm looking for support to buy until the structure changes. I can choose to do nothing on the daily. I can choose to go short term and just sort of avoid the chop and not need that day-to-day, session-to-session follow-through. But I'm still looking at this market in a range, and I'm still overall bullish. And I will be probably till middle of February, unless these key support levels via Darvis are broken, or we go to red over red on the JT multi. And that's the same thing across NQ, ES, YM. I'm most bullish YM though. All right, we've talked a lot about that in the free videos. Okay. All right. Again, if I missed your question, my apologies. I have run over. However, just copy and paste it, leave it in the comments, and I will see you all tomorrow. Same time, same station. Be good to each other, gang. I'll talk to you soon.